You run on time.
You bet you are getting out of here today. What? Yes, sir.
1%. It's okay, Todd.
I didn't want to trying to figure out what was ringing underneath.
I was about to dive over there too. I wondered what
Okay.
you did.
Okay, welcome back to day 2 of the Wyoming Water Development Commission and Select Water Committee joint meeting. First off, we're going to have roll call again, at least for the commission.
Nick Bettis,
That's all right.
Karen Bud Fallon,
That's right.
Floyd Canfield,
Here.
David Evans,
Here.
Clinton Glick, Sheridan Little,
Here.
William Rezor,
Here.
Jeanette Seekin, Rodney Wagner, Todd Werbel's here. We have a quorum.
All right. Thank you.
Josh, you
Mr.
call the
Secretary.
roll.
Here.
Senator Dustin. Here. Senator Driscoll.
Here.
Senator Hester. Senator Meyer.
Here.
Senator Blake.
Here.
Senator Beckler.
Here.
Senator Hunt.
Here.
Senator Finch.
Here.
Senator Norfolk.
Here. I did.
Senator Baxter.
Here.
Senator Banks.
Here.
Thank you. Okay, first off, we may have a few veterans in here, and it's Veterans Day, so if you are a veteran, would you please stand and be recognized? Thank you all for your service. Next up, we'll have audience introductions. We'll start over with Josh.
Josh Anderson.
City Water Development Office. Katie Talbot, Water Development Office.
David Evans. All right.
Stan Blake, House District 39.
David Evans, Wyoming Water Development Commission, District 1.
Rod Wagner, Wyoming Water Development Commission, District 1.
Jerry Paxton, House District 47, 12,000 square miles of south central Wyoming.
Abigail Bodewines, Attorney General's Office.
Karen Bud Fallon, Water Development Commission, representing the public at large.
Jeanette Seekin, Wyoming Water Development Commission, representing Division 3.
Floyd Canfield, Wyoming Water Development Commission, Region 2.
Todd Werbel, Water Development Commission, Division 3.
Sheridan Little, Wyoming Water Development Commission, Water Division 2.
Gerald Geist, District 20, Center, District 20.
Bill Rezor, Water Development Commission, Division 4.
Stan Cooper, Senate District 14, Southwest Wyoming.
John Eklund, House District 10.
Hans Hunt, House District 2.
Robert McKim, House District 21.
Ogden Driscoll, Senate District 1.
David Northrup, House District 50, which is Park County.
Dan Dockstead, Lincoln, Teton, Sutherland County.
Kurt Meyer, Senate District 3, which is Goshen, Niobrara, and Southern Weston.
Terry Labonte, Director, Water Development Office.
Jason Mead, Water Development Office.
Lots Hart Mountain Irrigation.
Clerk and Water Development.
Kurt Lawrence, Water Development Office. Rick Kerr, University of Wyoming Office of Water Programs.
Terry Gard, Beaver Irrigation District.
Alex Sweden, City of Casper, Engineering Office.
Lloyd Moore.
Water Resources Data System.
Bales. Howell, Midville Irrigation District.
Patty McGill, Wisdom Irrigation District.
John Britt.
Neil Gray, Irrigation District.
Dave Myers, HDR Engineering.
Corey Coleman, Three Scott.
Gardens are shown.
Fred Crosby with the council office.
Thank you and welcome. All right, with that, we will go right back into 2017 funding recommendations in account 2.
Okay, Mr. Chairman. First project up in account 2, you will find under large notebook, second tab T. It is the Casper CY Booster Station. And the order of projects, as we handled yesterday, will be new level 3 projects, level 3 amendments. Then we'll get to the studies going with level 2 projects, and then finally level 1 projects. So Casper CY Booster Station is the first one. This is a booster pump station that was constructed in 1953. The community feels that it has reached the end of its useful life. It's an integral part of their system because it does supply water to 8,000 taps within the community. The total project cost $1,273,000, and the sponsor is seeking a 67% grant in the amount of $852,910. And I would ask Casper to come up and be able to answer any questions with regards to the commission.
So, as was said, this facility.
Give your name and rank, file, and serial number first.
Sure. My name is Alex Svita. I'm with the City of Casper Engineering Office, and the CY Booster Station replacement is necessary, as said, because the facility is very old. It was built in 1953. It provides water to the Casper area, Valley Hills and Sunrise 1 water storage tanks, and serves approximately 1/3 of the 22,500 meter locations in the Zone 2 water service elevation for the city of Casper and for the municipal water supply system. So this is about 8,000 meter taps that are currently served by this booster station. This booster station was retrofitted in around 1980 to expand on the facility, adding some new valve assemblies, fittings, and piping. But as the facility has been in use, it's been rebuilt several times, especially the pumps, and it is in need of replacement.
Questions for the sponsor?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Seekin.
I noticed that, and this might be part of Harry's response, some prior legislation were some of these studies, like watershed master plan studies, and so is this repair like part of coming out of a recommendation from a previous study, going down the list of things that need to be done? Is this booster station replacement part of the results of a study?
What I believe is this facility was mentioned in a master plan done, I think, around 2004, 2005, and there was no particular recommendation for its replacement in that.
Okay, so that 2004 raw water irrigation supply, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, just follow up. That 2004, those were studies on your system, is that? I just want to make sure I'm understanding the legislation prior.
Mr. Chairman, with regards to the irrigation supply, those were dollars, again, I I guess I can look it up. I've got the legislative report before my time, but the Water Development Commission did invest in some raw water supply, so level 3 project actually, where improvements were made for pumping raw water out of the North Platte for their park system.
Okay, so this isn't part of like a following through on needs from a study or identifying things that need to be done as a result of a master plan or anything like that. These are just things that have come up, not piecemeal, not necessarily identified as part of an overall system that needs to be taken care of.
Yeah, as I said before, Civil Engineering Professionals Incorporated did a master plan for the city of Casper around 2004, 2005, which identified primarily the hydraulics of the city of Casper water system, and I don't believe that there was any particular recommendation for a replacement of the CY booster station in that master plan at that time.
Okay, thank you. And just to clarify why I'm asking this question, and I may be asking it of everyone, some of the things that the commission's been doing is looking at our studies and our plans and seeing the recommendations, and then as they're carried through over the years, just to see how it all ties together. And it's just just to see if this is part of that. And if not, that's fine. But I just want to see the connection when we do a master plan and various things are identified as things that need attention at some point in the future. You know, does this fall within those recommendations? And I know some come in without ever having done a master plan or come in because of an emergency. So it's just kind of getting it clear in my head, and I think for the commission. So thank you.
Thank you.
Any more questions for the sponsor? Okay, it looks like that's it. Thank you.
Chairman, the next project for your consideration is under tab U. It is the Deaver Irrigation District flume replacement / laterals 2017. This project consists of rehabilitation of the D23 flume and then conversion of 2 laterals, D44, 9 and 10 into pipe. So taking it from open ditch into a pipe system. This is one of several projects, and I know we have a new commission member that'll explain a little bit more of this. We have a program in place with irrigation districts that rather than seeking the standard 67% grant, and they can certainly pursue a 33% loan, where then we fund design services, and then ultimately they retain a contractor to construct the improvements. In lieu of that, with irrigation districts, this program allows them to pursue a 100% grant for materials only, and then the district is responsible for designing the project and ultimately constructing the project with their own crews and equipment. So this is one of those projects. So the district is seeking a 100% grant in the amount of $91,000. And then you see under the analysis there, other funding source, and they've listed it at $247,000. That's their estimate of their costs in terms of equipment. So I don't pay a lot of attention to the second item. What we're asking the commission to pursue is a grant of $91,000, and it will be for materials only on this project. And
Do we have a sponsor representative here? No.
Good morning, and thank you for this opportunity. These 2 projects, the flume itself was on an original level 2 study that was conducted in the early 2000s, and it was defrayed. We never got around during that funding period to fix that flume, and it's the last wooden flume structure we have in the district. It has outlived its service life by many decades. We recently just completed a new level 1 study, and this flume itself was a #1 priority. It is our #1 priority in our level 1 study that was just recently completed. The flume is an item that I think our district will not have to spend an entire construction season fixing. So I chose another lateral, and because of the scope and the size of these laterals, one of the laterals I had on the new level 1 study was the D44 system. This is a tail end of a lateral that 2/3 of this lateral, which is about 2 miles long, in the late 80s, early 90s during a previous R&B, they never completed this lateral. And we're down to the tail end, about 2,000 feet of this lateral that was never completed. I don't know if they ran out of money or what happened at the point. And I'm not questioning the engineering that went into this concrete pipe lateral, but what I'm saying is that it doesn't function very well now as an open ditch at the end of this system. And it's created some problems where I've had to go in and rebuild the box and raise the level in order to keep it from overflowing and so on. Plus the laterals don't have any measurement device that functions, and part of it is it's a 2-segmented lateral, and part of it's an old concrete ditch. I chose and I approached the Wyoming Water Development Office about applying and putting both projects onto one application because of the cost for the materials, and again, as Mr. Labonte stated, we're just asking for materials reimbursement cost and the scope of it. I do believe my district can complete and finish both of these projects in one construction season. That's why we're asking for the $91,000 for the materials only cost.
Questions for the sponsor?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Zegan.
you said in the early 2000s there was a level 2 study?
Yes. The Wyoming Water Development Office, we went through a level 2 study, feasibility study, and I believe it was around 2000, 2002. And this flume itself was identified then, but I think other projects took precedence and it never got accomplished at that point. So I put it at the top of the list in this current level 1 that we just completed.
That's great. That study just is missing on this prior legislation, that's all. I mean, it isn't showing, so thank you.
Questions? Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, next project then under tab B is the Dry Creek irrigation. Dry Creek irrigation pipeline replacement. This project involves replacing 5,455 lineal feet of 16 and 14-inch pipe in the system. And if you recall, we had a discussion that this is a metal pipe irrigation system been in place for a number of years. Corrosion is taking its toll. This is their first effort here in terms of replacing these lines. And here we are back to seeking the normal 67% grant, 33. Total project cost $670,000, of which the grant is $448,900, and the loan amount will be $221,100.
Do we have a sponsor from Irrigation District?
No. I know we do. Our irrigation district, but my name is Roland Gardner from the Dry Creek Irrigation District. Kind of a brief summary of our system. First went into operation in 1971, so the pipe's been in the ground for 45 years, and our steel pipe is corroding. We've been spending roughly about $20,000 a year in repairs, digging up the pipe, and it affects us during our irrigation system. And a lot of this pipe is, we'll have a section of pipe and you'll fix one hole, and before you leave, there's another one that you spotted. So this pipe is used up its useful lifespan and needs to be replaced. So that's why we've come requesting some help.
Questions?
Mr. Chairman, I have my same question. I understand you had a master plan done, so I assume this was one of the top things identified on the master plan. Is that accurate?
Yeah, on the master plan, we kind of we split it up into phases because it's such a big project and there was so much money involved that we split it up into phases. And this phase that we're asking for help today was the line that we were having the most issues with. And we thought we would start with that phase. And it's a fairly easy phase, just straight through some properties. There's no houses to have to worry about. So this one would be a pretty easy fix, I think.
Questions?
Mr. Chairman.
Representative McCann.
Thank you. Mr. Gardner, would you explain to us about the change in the number of hook-ons to your system and why this is so important?
Yeah, one of when our system was put in, it was first set up in 1969 and the 2 years of construction. There was roughly about 35 landowners on this 3,500 acre district. Right now, because of population growth, we've got about 235 landowners. And so that part of the thing that we're dealing with is trying to deal with all these individual homeowners. And some of those have a hard time understanding that I have a field with 32 birds running on a full irrigation line, and why can't they run 5 or 6 birds on their quarter-acre lot? And if you multiply that by 200 homes, that's a lot of extra water that we're trying to supply for. So those are some of the issues that we're dealing with the change in the valley.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Dockstader.
Mr. Gardner, just to follow up to that too, the anticipated change, you anticipate even more growth in the coming 10 to 20 years. YDOT figures show that the expansion's just going to continue.
Yeah. I mean, things have gone crazy the last couple of years with people moving into the valley. So yeah, that's going to be a continual challenge to deal. We're kind of almost changing from an agriculture-based system to more homes that we have to deal with and supply water to.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Reeser.
What's your rate structure? Is there a per acre fee, or
Yep.
per gallon, or per person, per owner?
Yeah, we had it split up. We had kind of a 2-phase assessment. Our existing rate was $10 an acre, plus we had a minimum charge of $33. So if you were a quarter acre lot or something, it was $33. We have changed that to kind of help take care of this this repair cost. We've changed it to $20 an acre with a $300 minimum charge. And that's going to raise a significant amount of money to help pay for this. And our hope is that we can do this first phase and get it in the ground and in 2 years get it paid for and then go to the second phase. So if we can kind of do that step process, I think we can get ahead of this and keep the system functioning.
More questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, the next project under tab W is the Eden Valley Irrigation District SCADA 2017. SCADA is the supervisory control and data acquisition. It's basically an electronic control system that you can manage controls from one central location. Those kinds of systems have been around for some 30 years, but it makes it much easier for operations, certainly. And in this case, what the district is proposing is on 2 laterals, the E19 and the E25 lateral, they would like to replace their weir boxes. So where water comes off of the lateral into a line that would run to a field, they have a weir where they can then measure the depth of water over the weir, and that corresponds with a particular flow. They want to replace those with meters and then tie that into a SCADA system so that they can monitor that from the office. Total project cost $225,000. They have a U.S. Bureau of Reclamation grant for their 1/3. And so the requested grant from you, 67% is $150,750. My recommendation is no funding for this project. And there really are 2 reasons. The first is that when you look at account 2, that is the account that has, I guess I would call, say, some level of financial distress, the least amount of money available. And then the second reason is that if we use the analogy that we do for the municipal sponsors, more account 1 in this case, we do not fund the installation of meters for the distribution of water. We will put a meter on the main supply, on a wellhead, for example, but when it comes to distribution metering, we do not fund that. And I really view this as a distribution metering funding project. And then SCADA systems are kind of our lowest priority when we fund projects. So for those reasons, I am recommending no. Certainly, it's a good project, but I think in terms of trying to conserve our funding in account 2 and then being consistent with the municipal market, I would recommend no.
You have a representative from the sponsor today? Looks like we do not. Any questions for Harry then on this project?
He told us.
Okay, move on then.
Mr. Chairman, the next project under tab XYZ in the notebooks, Goshen Irrigation District Rehabilitation 2017. This is a materials-only grant, and they are seeking, or this particular project is to replace an open tile line or lateral 6.7 and lateral 45.1. They want to replace that with PVC pipe, and we're talking about 24-inch diameter PVC pipe in lieu of the open tile. We do have a representative.
Thank you for this opportunity. I'm Rob Postman, manager of Goshen Irrigation District. These tile lines that we were asking to fix they leak excessively. There's actually some farm ground that's not able to be farmed because they leak so bad. They're 75 years old and they're concrete tile lines. They've been put under pressure just because of the way farming is now with sprinklers and what have you. You know, they weren't made for pressure and they're being pressured up. We've tried for lots of years to fix them and it just keeps breaking the next band and make them, they still leak that bad. So that's why we're asking to replace these. One of the projects is the gentleman that owns the land can't even get to his house through his driveway because it leaks so bad. And we're losing a lot of water, like I would say a couple, 3 feet in just those 2 tile lines. So.
Questions?
Do you have a sinking fund to repair these when they wear out?
Yes.
You're not going to use that, huh?
That was, I guess I hadn't thought of that. We were just.
Well, you think about it then.
Yeah.
That's what you have it for.
Commissioner Seekin.
I see that there was a 2006 master plan. Were these leaks discovered then and part of the items to be repaired that were identified? Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Butt-Fallon.
So in looking at your financial statement, I'm a little confused about how you end up with your balance in repair and replacement fund. You said pre-project, you've got 130,000 in post-project. You don't have either. So what are you spending that 130,000 on?
We have 130,000 in our emergency fund.
That's what it says.
She's asking what you use that fund for.
That is for the projects that we put in that we've already done, and we're required to keep an emergency fund for the projects that we've done already.
Do you understand my question, Harry? Because it says pre-project, you've got money. Post-project, you have no funding. So I'm trying to figure out what you're spending, why you wouldn't have an emergency fund post-project.
Well, they are also spending $184,526 on this project as
I
well.
see.
So I'm guessing part of it's probably going to that, or all of it, maybe. Because they are seeking 100% materials only funding for this
Okay, so
one as
that'd
well,
be
so-
for the work to put it in. That's what my question was.
And Mr. Chairman, we do require that they provide engineered drawings for this, and so that tends to be an out-of-pocket cost. I don't know about the magnitude, but so there are out-of-pocket costs that they incur as part of these materials on the grants, and then, of course, they use
This is flood meters right here.
fuel cost, maintenance costs.
Even irrigation.
Commissioner Evans, do you have a
Just to
question?
clarify, the 130,000 is in the repair and replacement fund, not the emergency fund. That's a different fund here. That's 77,000. And it's the repair and replacement fund that goes down to zero post-project. So I'm assuming you're using that 130 as part of the construction cost you're picking up, the 184?
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Meyer.
And I think if you look above that, there's another line that says annual payments to repair and replacement fund. That seems to be a rolling amount that's paid every year, that it goes into it, it's used for repairs and replacements, and it's replenished. You know, and then the next year it starts out with that, they use that money, and then the next year it's replenished. So if you look up there about 4 lines there, there's another 130,550 up above to the right. It's just a revolving fund that comes back and forth as required.
We can't use it unless it's.
Questions? Okay, guess that's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Chairman, then the next project is under the third tab A in your notebook, Heart Mountain Irrigation District Rehabilitation 2017. This project has 3 components, and I'll just briefly touch on those. The sponsor, Rick, can provide more detail. We replaced 1 lateral. The piping there is 1,435 feet. That is identified as lateral H41. And then there are 2 pickup conveyances that in terms of their laterals, 2 laterals when they get to the end, that water then their plan is to pick that water back up, and then with piping, the first one installing 5,300 feet of additional piping, the second one installing about 3,250 feet. They are able to pick that water up and then reuse that within the irrigation district. This is a materials only grant. So total project cost estimate a little over 1.1 million. They are seeking $410,000 to pay for the materials on this project.
Harry. Good morning, Commission. My name is Randy Watts. I'm the manager for Heart Mountain Irrigation District up between Powell and Cody. A little bit of history on us. We work with the Bureau of Rec, with the Buffalo Bill Reservoir. We share joint facilities on a 2.5-mile tunnel that come from the dam through the Spirit Mountain, which then it turns into what we call 4 Bay. At that point, we manage and take care of O&M on 28 miles of canal, main canal, 8 siphons, and 2 tunnels that we take care of, besides several hundred miles of laterals and several hundred miles of underground drains. So we did have a master plan study done in 2014 with an engineering firm out of Cody, and that was completed. I am the new manager. I've only been around about 11 months. So when I was hired by the board, they asked me to look at the master plan and come up with things that needed to be done and a 5-year plan. In doing the 5-year plan and looking at things, the master plan has a lot of very large projects, which in turn means a lot of money, which means us coming in front of you. And not knowing that we would be able to get some of those presented this year, I evaluated the system and the facilities and came up with these 3 projects that are smaller projects, but they are not in the master plan. We did have a level 1 type study done with an engineering firm to do these 3 projects, and we paid for that already. And we are asking just for grant money in regards to procurement. We will do all the installation and whatever the engineering and the design on these projects.
Questions?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Seekin.
We know that you're now in an evaluation with your canal issue. Are these at all related to what has to happen with your canal repair?
As far as the main canal and the one up underneath Rattlesnake Mountain, no, these do not have anything to do with the Rattlesnake Mountain and the new liner that we're going to propose to you next year. We put it off this year. We'll propose that next year.
More questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Chairman, the next project, actually the next 2 projects are from Midvale Irrigation District. They are both materials only projects. And as in past years, when an entity submits multiple applications, and we ask them to prioritize the project. So the first one under tab B, which is the Midvale Pilot 27.0A lateral, was designated by the sponsor as number 1 priority. They are seeking $355,000 in materials only grant. And this is, of course, them piping that particular lateral. I'll talk about both projects at this point in time. The second one is in the next tab, Midvale Sand G lateral, 2017. And in that project, they are seeking a $300,000 materials only grant. And again, because I am recommending that we fund Midvale's first priority, but then not fund their second priority. And John, if you want to come up.
Good morning. My name is John Howell. I'm manager of Midvale Irrigation District. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I want the commission and special committee to know that we really appreciate your support in the past and ongoing. These projects are pretty typical of what we see a lot in our district, which is pretty vast. We irrigate 74,000 acres, and these are open dirt ditches, which I was just thinking about it just a minute ago. Our system will be 100 years old in 5 years, and these, they show it. So they seep really bad. They put us in a position where we have to turn in a lot more water at the top of these laterals than we really would like to, but it's because of seepage loss and just how old they are and how inefficient they are. And so this is another project where we'd like to replace the ditch with a PVC pipe. And as Harry was saying, we're asking for materials only. We provide the equipment and the manpower, and we do the construction and engineering ourselves. We've also this year done a couple of other pipeline conversion projects in-house where we have totally funded those projects ourselves to try to keep up with this pretty much overwhelming deterioration of the system. So I'd be happy to answer any of your questions at this time.
Questions for the sponsor? Okay. Looks like, oh, Commissioner Beth Fallon.
Not that I am interested in doing any more studies, but you've never had a master plan done. So, I mean, are we just piecemealing, putting this together forever?
Well, I don't know if it was officially called a master plan, but I know Anderson Consulting Engineers did a pretty extensive study. I think it was about 10 years ago. It's commonly referred to as, as our 20-year plan. And we have looked at that very closely for these projects that we look at. We have some projects that have come up since that time that take a higher priority, but I believe both of these are in that, were part of that study. And so, you know, I don't know if it's called a master plan or not, but we look at that every year because of what was identified in that study.
So is that something, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, is that something you did on your own or was that through us?
The study itself was funded by WWDC.
Okay, because it's not listed on our project information.
If I was gonna guess here, I would say it's probably the one referred to as Midvale Conservation, possibly 2003, 2004 would be my guess. It's either that one or the one in 2006.
Mr. Chairman, the 2003, 2004 study was the conservation study. And Barry, okay. Barry just shared with me that that was the plan that at least lays out these improvements. And conservation looks at these issues of unlined ditches and how much water can be conserved by piping.
Representative Blake.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Harry, could you refresh my memory on how do we follow up with these material-only grants, and not picking on Midvale or anything, but all of them? How do we follow up that they did what we paid them to do, or the materials they bought? Do we follow up on that extensively?
So the first step in the process is that we do require an engineered design by a registered engineer, and those are plans that we review as part of the office operation. Once those are found to be satisfactory, then the sponsor can go out and procure those materials. They do that through a bidding process, and we review those bids. And then we perform then periodic site inspections where we're on site. It may be during the construction, or in the case of, and you've got some concrete structures that we're going to talk about here in a couple of minutes. We'll take a look at those after the fact. So yes, we have an on-site presence while the construction is going on.
Thank you.
Questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
So, Mr. Chairman, the next project under tab D is the Shoshone Irrigation District Rehabilitation 2017. What the district is planning to do, and this is a materials only project request, replace 2 drop structures on the Garland Canal with new concrete structures, and then 3 small ditch segments, the lateral 46F, 23B, and then the end of the 2W. And they would convert those to buried pipe systems. It's about 7,400 lineal feet involved in that. They are seeking a grant, again, materials only, in the amount of $234,000. And Brian, come on up.
Yes, I'm Brian Starton, manager of Shoshone Irrigation District, and I thank you for the opportunity to come here again today. The Shoshone Irrigation District we've been delivering water since 1908, so our infrastructure is 108 years old. We have been utilizing the funding from the Water Development Commission for quite a few years to keep our system upgraded. The drop structure, we have 31 drop structures on the main canal that you guys have paid to help us replace 24 of them so far. We got 7 left. And we continue to bury open ditches with pipe and improve our water measurement. And that's what we're here again to do today.
Questions for the sponsor? Commissioner Seekin.
Mr. Chairman, my same question. Did you have a master plan?
In 2006, we had one done, a study along with our GIS mapping program.
And a follow-up, Mr. Chairman. So this goes along with some of the recommendations in that
Yes.
study? Okay.
More questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, the next project under tab E is the Sidon Irrigation District Rehabilitation 2017. And they are intending to basically pipe what is called the Glen Lateral. This is a materials only grant request, so they are requesting $483,000 for materials only.
Representative from sponsor.
Mr. Chairman, Commission, I'm William Bridges, Prairie Mountain Engineering, representing Sidon today on this project. This is a major lateral within the Sidon Irrigation District. It serves close to 2,000 acres through their system. Has some issues with being able to fully maintain it to get the water down to the end of the lateral where they typically find shortages in the summer. So being able to bury this will allow them to be more efficient in their water delivery and save and conserve as much water as they can.
Questions for the sponsor? Commissioner Seekin.
Looking at the price, I'm thinking maybe, were one of these a study, I guess, or master plan or something?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner, in looking at this sequencing, the only study shown in prior legislation is dated back to 1993.
More questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, the next project is the Thermopolis Pipeline Replacement 2017. This is a project that actually involves, the nature of the project is to replace asbestos cement pipelines within their system. Typically, as the write-up indicates, that piping system has a 40 to 60 year life, depends on the aggressiveness of the water. These pipelines within their system are 50 years old, and their request was to replace asbestos cement pipelines in 3 different areas of the community. And like with other requests that I've mentioned, again, trying to conserve funding in account 2, we asked that they prioritize those 3 different phases. They did that, and I am recommending for funding what they characterize as phase 1. The project, total cost of the project, $1,790,000. And then a 67% grant for that would represent $1,199,300. The grant amounts for phase 2 was a little over $404,000. I am not recommending that at this time. And then phase 3, that grant amount was $57,000. And again, my recommendation is for just phase 1.
Mr. Chair.
Evans.
Is the idea, Harry, they would come in for phase 2 and phase 3 as they complete each phase then over a period of time?
Mr. Chairman, yes, they're all 3 of the phases are good, viable projects. It's just that I'm looking at trying to conserve funding within account 2.
Have a representative from the sponsor that'd like to come forward, or?
They were supposed to be here. Yeah, Mr. Crosby.
Thank you. Appreciate your time here today. My name is Fred Crosby, and I'm like the town administrator for Thermopolis. A little bit of history. We did a level 1 study a couple years ago, and as I was sitting in the back thinking about it, it was quite a useful tool for me as an administrator. I pretty much used that master plan as a bully point with the mayor and council. It was especially useful for us to significantly increase water rates, which is not very popular in a small town, but we needed to do that. Secondly, I found out that every year we had tried to do 5 or 6 blocks of water line and just keep up. But the study showed us that these small projects were actually costing a tremendous amount of money because of mobilization and stuff like that. If we could do one big project, get multiple sources of funding, it would save us money in the long run and keep up with everything that we were needing to do in the water lines. So we, once again, I beat the mayor and council pretty good with the master plan and got them to concede that we needed a big project. They passed through that. We funded it through depreciation reserve, and we're moving ahead with it. That being said, we needed to rank it into what we thought was most important, and for us, it was kind of like deciding whether to die in a car wreck or a burning house. It was hard. We came down with the phase 1, which was the main transmission lines from the water plant that are plugged down and old and whatnot. The state park area is a very, very necessary part of it too. That's the highest pressure parts of town with some of the oldest pipes. So, but if we can't get water to that, it doesn't make sense to do that first. So we went ahead with the phase 1 from the water plant out. State Park just released last week their master plan for the Hot Springs State Park, and they're going to do some fixing up of the railroad underpass. You've probably been there quite a bit and saw how bad it is. They're going to start doing that, and we eventually would like to get those water lines replaced in the state park too. Kind of go along with that. Appreciate your help, though.
Mr. Chairman?
Fallon.
So in terms of your phase 1 and phase 2 projects, would there be any cost savings or any advantage to doing the phases now in one fell swoop, or is this really truly a phase kind of project?
Well, I think we'd have an advantage in that we probably would be getting a better bid for a little larger project. And the town has started the engineering on the phase 2 part as well. We want to get through with that. So we've started that engineering part there. So I don't know if it'll be quite as much. This is Anthony Barnett, our town engineer. He might be able to.
Mr. Chairman, I'm Anthony Barnett, and in response.
Skin to the mic.
Excuse me.
You getting kind of close?
I'm Anthony Barnett, and serving as a town engineer. And yes, there could be cost savings by doing both projects at once. Simply on the preliminary end of it, from the design, permitting, and engineering side of it. And then both parts of the project include boring and or bursting existing pipe. And both would be of a size that having a bigger project and drawing more interest from contractors would be a benefit.
Let me ask a follow-up.
Go ahead.
You said the state parks was going to be doing some work in the state parks based on their master plan. Are you going to be working in the same area? Would some of these pipes be in the same place so that you wouldn't have to tear everything up twice?
Yes. And we've been working with state park staff, and I guess I should back up. One thing that Mr. Crosby didn't mention is the town has funded preliminary design work to the tune of, I believe, $230,000 to work with the state park and in preparation for this project, which isn't necessarily reflected in the numbers that are shown in the grant application. But yes, the state parks engineering staff has been requesting a lot of information on the status of our project and what the scheduling may be pertaining to what they may be able to come up with funding for in their repairs.
So, Mr. Chairman, what kind of I don't want to kill our budget, but I'm interested in what kind of cost savings we're talking about, because it seems to me that if there's a significant cost savings, or if it's going to work out better for the citizens in the town to do this all at once, I think that's a consideration we ought to make.
Mr. Chairman, just on doing a quick addition on, or basing on what the town is funding on the design end of it, they would save approximately $175,000 that would not be requested from water development because it would not be eligible, because it would happen prior to the project. Of the remaining water development eligible pipeline being replaced, it looks to me like it would be roughly $300,000 in water development funds that would be requested.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Evans.
Even though it currently is going to cost more, is there any value to breaking it up into segments, just in terms of being able to handle the project rather than one large construction project throughout the community? I know Cheyenne did a transmission pipeline. They broke it up into three, partly because it was such a big project, it was easier to kind of handle it in three phases. Is there any value to that or not here?
I don't believe so. And I guess we started looking at this during the master plan study, and there are parts that cannot be completed simultaneously, I guess, during the same project, but it would likely be beneficial for the town staff, or for the public works staff, to knock out a majority of it at once.
For the most part, we've tried to do our water projects late fall or early spring, which would be a good time at the state park, as visitation is down a little bit from summertime.
More questions?
I have a question.
Commissioner Glick.
I think you said that like mobilization and demobilization would be cost savings if you did one entire project rather than breaking it up, right? I mean,
Chairman,
that's where the
Commissioner
cost savings would be, from what I understand.
That would be probably a large portion of it, in addition to increasing the scale of the project to draw more interest from, I guess, potentially larger contractors, bidders.
Yeah, we've found with our 4 and 5 block jobs we've done every year, it's sometimes we've just got a couple bids, because for the larger ones, it's not as competitive for them.
Sure. Questions, Harry?
Mr. Chairman, I want to ask for clarification. Did I understand that you're saying that if the commission were to add phase 2 and 3, that it would represent a $300,000 cost savings?
No. Development eligible.
Okay, so right now, phase two is 404,000 in Water Development Commission grants. And so you're saying that's what you're requesting. So you're saying that if you come back subsequently, that it would be more on the order of $500,000? Yeah, I guess I'm questioning the magnitude of those numbers. I agree, there's cost savings when you have a larger project, but at the same time, I'm not convinced that the savings are on that order.
Mr.
More
Chairman?
questions? Commissioner Seacon.
Just one thing, maybe this would be, since there could be a significant cost savings or not, I mean, looking at what Harry, you'd had here, and the numbers that they're talking about, maybe this would be something we should table till December, come back and, you know, we've heard most of this, and then when we make our final recommendation, between you and the office, look and see what the real savings would be, if any, and then maybe make a final recommendation to the select water at that time.
So Mr. Chairman, if I could, my suggestion would be that if we're going to do that, that we go ahead and approve the project, at least phase one. That will show up in your draft bill. And then if you want to amend that in December to add the other phases, we could do that. At least have Thermopolis in the bill. But I think one thing to consider is there's several other projects that I have also pared down. And so I think those sponsors can make the same argument that with larger projects, they can get a cost savings. The question is going to be how much. Midvale is one of those. LeClaire is coming up with regards to projects that I've cut back. So,
Well, Mr. Chairman, just a quick follow-up. I'm really glad you pared them down, but maybe it'd be good just to double check our numbers and see what the department thinks after looking at what, you know, and your recommendation may be the same, and that would be great. But I think we just ought to maybe look at this a little bit again.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Evans.
I think it's been a good discussion because it kind of highlights that savings of trying to do one project at one time if it's not too much. However, this is coming out of count two. And so whether there's a savings or not, we'd want to hear from the department just how much can that account bear, whether there's a savings or not. I think that's the critical thing.
And Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Harry.
Mr. Chairman. So one of the things that we did not talk about on Wednesday with regards to the financial projections is those are in fact projections. And I can tell you that Andy, our financial officer, will get very nervous if you're going to spend down to zero funds in account two, because that revenue is a projection. I believe it's conservative, but we always like to leave a little or a portion of that. So if the projections don't quite come in or cash flowing of projects, we'll change that scenario. So at any rate, but would be happy to come back in December with a recommendation for cost savings.
Mr. Chairman, not to belabor this, but this also gets into our prioritization discussions that we've been having for quite some time. So if we have, as you say, several projects that you've pared down because of finances, which is something we have to look at, then the commission will have to decide which priority project needs to go forward for that cost saving. So, you know, we've got 2 or 3 pieces of this that we have to think through, not only the account, making sure there's funds in there, but also prioritizing the projects.
Mr. Chair, because when I look at account two, the projections you gave us the first day, I think it's balance available for appropriation 7.5, and you've got a $6 million worth of recommendations. That doesn't include, you know, additional Midvale projects or additional Thermopolis projects. So I think we're going to have 2 competing issues here.
I just made our life harder for December. So, much more difficult.
Discussion.
So.
Okay, any more questions? Comments, concerns? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Chairman, that concludes at least new level 3 projects. I can continue on, or if you want to handle those as a block.
It's the pleasure of the commission.
Let's do it.
Handle them. Right.
Handle them.
Okay. Well, make a motion.
I'll make a motion that we accept the office's recommendation on all those projects.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we accept the moved by Commissioner Rezor and seconded by Commissioner Wagner that we accept the new level 3 projects, the director's recommendation. Any discussion on the motion?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner
but is
Fallon.
that going to leave us enough wiggle room and to look at these other projects that were phased and make a different recommendation in December if that's what we decide to do?
The motion does not. You can either amend it or Bill can amend his motion.
The motion just gets these all in the book. We're perfectly able to amend them in December if, I mean,
That's true. We could add to the Thermopolis pipeline.
Right. So I don't think there's any conflict there. I'm assuming we'll get a recommendation for an amendment, that we'll have to consider in December.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm very budget conscious, but if we, and this is a big if, so absolutely nobody take this as my position, but if we think the cost saving is significant enough here and we have to take away one of these other projects, I just want to have the flexibility to do that.
You can do that.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Because this is just a preliminary budget that we're looking at, and you're going to finalize it in December. You can vote some of them up, some of them down, or out, whatever you want to do. That's the tough one is December.
Be clear.
Okay, I just wanted to be clear that that was the way it worked.
Okay, question. Further discussion, questions on the motion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passed. Level 3 project amendments.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, the first project is the Dull Knife Reservoir Spillway Rehabilitation. In 2014, you appropriated $1,750,000, $715. Let me try that again, $1,715,000. That was for rehabilitation of the spillway on this particular project. And if you turn back in this section in the recommendation, there are some pictures. And the large erosion scar that you see in those pictures is in fact what that appropriation was for and to ultimately rehabilitate that. The project has gone forward in design, and if you look at the cost funding that was envisioned on the original project, Water Development is paying for 35% of the project. The NRCS is providing a grant in the amount of 65% of the project. However, in the design of the facility, it was pointed out that the dam itself and that erosion scar that I asked you to look at is in native material. That is a native embankment. It is not the dam. It looks like a dam, but it is not the dam. The dam is actually adjacent to that. And in the design, it was determined that there was a need to fortify the dam or provide a buttress for that. And so the sponsor is coming back and asking for an additional $252,000 to provide that buttress on the dam itself as part of this project. So the ultimate budget, the revised budget, would be $5,620,000, of which Water Development would maintain its 35% share in the amount of $1,967,000. But it would be an amendment of $252,000 to your previous appropriation. And the sponsor maybe can provide a little more detail than that.
My name's Dan Mahoney, and I'm the president of the Dull Knife Irrigation District. And alls I can add is that we're just here requesting additional fundings. Tetra Tech has the design at a 90%. We had a pre-bid showing last month. We had a really nice turnout as far as the contractors were concerned, and we're excited about getting on with this project. And NRCS came to us and said that they needed, Harry already described it, to upgrade that berm, and so that's where we're at.
Questions for the sponsor? Senator Meyer?
I don't know if I'm in the right spot or not, but it says on page 4 that, are you still only charging $4 per acre foot? You realize everybody else is probably much higher than that? Okay.
We originally built the dam without any assistance. This rehabilitation of the spillway was, we've maintained the reservoir for 50 years, and we paid the loan off, I think, about 8 years in advance. We were approached that this spillway had to be fixed. The condition of the spillway is about the same condition it was when the dam was constructed. It was quite a shock for us to be put in this position. So that's why we pursued NRCS and Wyoming Water.
Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner Bud Fallon?
So originally, this was a grant loan project that is now increasing in the increase in the grant. I guess I'm just a little confused about.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Fallon. So in 2014, what was approved was the $1,715,000 grant from Water Development. That's a 35% share. And then NRCS was providing a 65% grant for this spillway rehabilitation. So there was no loan dollars involved. It was strictly grant from both agencies. And so that takes care of the spillway. That part of the project is funded. So, but during the design, I didn't do a good job of describing this, but if you go to the picture, well, the first page is a map with a site plan map. The second page then has two pictures. The bottom picture, you can see the spillway in the left-hand side, the eroded scar. But in the center of that picture is the dam. And so my point is that this buttress is applying now to the dam. That is the design recommendations that, again, this was a dam that was constructed in the mid-1960s, and the designer feels that there is a need to buttress the dam in addition to the spillway work. And the recommendation here from Water Development would maintain that same funding percentage, which is grant from Water Development and grant from NRCS to fund the project.
Mr. Chairman, has NRCS already approved their portion of the grant?
I don't know about the,
Mr. Chairman, I'm Dave Farmer. If I could just answer.
Speak into the mic a little better.
Speak into the mic. The original NRCS grant is approved. We have a contract for the money, just like we do with WWDC. We have been invited to apply for the additional funding from NRCS. We have done that. We have been advised it's just a matter of course to get it approved. I don't have a document to show you, but it is approved. And I'd like to make one other quick point. The reason that we had to come back for this buttress is that the NRCS design requirements changed after our design was completed. We submitted, not completed at 60%, we submitted that for comments, and then we were advised that after we had completed that 60% design, the design requirements had changed and increased. So we had to accommodate that change.
And Mr. Chairman, and so the increase you're asking from us is our percentage,
Yes, ma'am.
not the whole thing.
That's correct.
You're shaking your head, Harry.
I'm agreeing with you. So the total increase for the buttress, and back on your recommendation, is a total of $720,000. What is being requested here as an amendment is a 35% share from water development, which is the $252,000.
I get
They will seek and are seeking the remainder, $468,000 from NRCS.
Okay, it makes sense to me now. Thank you.
Questions? Okay, thank you.
I've been there a couple of times.
I'd like to just say thank you for your continued support. It's been critical to this project. We're getting to match your money 2-for-1 with the NRCS, which we think is great. And particularly like to thank Bill Brewer, who isn't here, but he's been a real big help with this.
Bill Brewer, for those of you that don't know, is a project manager in the construction division at Water Development. Works for Brian.
He's been with us from the beginning, and he's been a real asset, and we really do appreciate his advice, and I thank the committee. Thank you.
Thank you.
Friday.
Great. Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, the next amendment is under tab H. It is the LeClaire Irrigation District. And this year, there was $760,000 appropriated, Water Development Commission, for a project in LeClaire, which involved reconstruction of their sand trap. And recall that yesterday, in the project closeouts, we did talk about the LeClaire master plan. That sand trap is on that master plan work. However, the sponsor, LeClaire Irrigation District, has determined that, I guess I'll say they've changed their focus, and they would, in lieu of the sand trap, they would very much like to get after the water losses that are occurring in the LeClaire Canal. And so they're asking that we in essence, redefine this project into a canal lining project. And their proposal that came forward this year involves lining of 3 sections of canal. The Dally section, the Cemetery section, and the Haymaker section. And I asked, again, a large request. I asked the district to prioritize those sections, and they came back that the number 1 priority was Dally, the number 2 was Cemetery, and the number 3 was Haymaker. So my recommendation in this is that we go ahead and fund their priorities 1 and 2, which would be the Dally and the Cemetery section. And so we will be amending the 2016 appropriation. And what the 2016 appropriation provided was a $509,200 grant from Water Development, 67%, a loan from Water Development, $250,800, so that totaled $760,000. The revised budget for the lining of those 2 sections is $1,753,000. And maintaining, okay, so let me then go back. So what that means is that the revisions or the amendment will require, and this will be if we're keeping the 67% grant, there would be an additional $665,310 appropriated for grant dollars. The Cemetery District, and you may recall, I believe it was 2 years ago, that you had an application from the Mountain View Cemetery District in Riverton to actually do a feasibility study of lining their section of the canal, because it does cause some real operational issues in the cemetery in terms of this water loss. That was denied, and instead that work was rolled over into their master plan. And in fact, the cemetery, the section of LeClaire Canal flowing through the cemetery was confirmed to be leaking and a significant water loss. That's their number 2 priority now. The cemetery is bringing forward $222,090. So the sponsor's share for that portion of the project. So on that basis, I'm recommending that we fund the Dally section and the cemetery section. And so the portion of the Dally section, 33%, would retain as a loan from water development. And so, and I'm hoping that makes some sense. You see what, at the top of the recommendation sheet, you see the existing funding, that was 2016, the proposed changes, and then what would be ultimately the revised budget. And with that, we do have representatives from the LeClaire Irrigation District here. I would invite them up.
Thank you, Harry. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This work that we're doing now was originally requested 2 years ago, and because we had no master plan, that was deferred, and the master plan then has now been completed. And the sand trap work, we did some emergency repairs on that, which was stopgap repairs, will get us through. So that has now been dropped to a lower priority. Our losses in this Dally section particularly are in excess of 50%. Going down the bottom, going into those permeable soils through that section of the canal. The LeClaire ditch dates back to between 1919 and 1923. It's amazing that that was a hand dug ditch at that time, 33 miles of canal. And it goes through various soil conditions, and we have certain areas that just leak very badly. We currently have 3 lined sections totaling less than a mile. This work should help us dramatically. This season was a particularly difficult season because we did not have our typical high silt loads in the Wind River at times when we were delivering water to carry that silt load to use those clay fines to seal the bottom of the canal. We had a very difficult time during the peak irrigation season delivering water to the end of our system. And largely because of these losses in these 3 sections that we have. As Harry said, the cemetery had also requested that, and it was suggested that we roll that over and have LeClaire be the sponsor and the cemetery district provide the sponsor's share of the funding. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Seekin.
So was some money spent for the sand trap out of the?
No, we did that on our own. We did
Okay.
just some stopgap repairs to the 16-foot radial gate, made some repairs to the bearing that was failing. We have a large retaining wall which no longer has a foundation under it. It's got big tiebacks into the earthworks behind it. And our concern was that the structure is far beyond its service life. It was installed in 1942 or 43, and it's beyond its service life, but it is still functioning and still serviceable.
So follow up, Mr. Chairman. So at some point after you've changed your priority of issues, you'll probably be coming back for the.
We definitely have to come back to it, either repairs or replacement. The funding that was granted was for complete replacement of the structure. We're still evaluating whether a complete replacement or significant repairs is the best course for us.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner Bud Fallon.
I asked Abby and she, excuse me, she didn't think that there was any direction in the statute, but I'm not opposed to this, but I do question whether you can have one application the first year and the legislature funds a project, and then the next year come back based on the same application and fund a whole new project. And I guess I'd ask make sure the legislators are comfortable with that, because that feels like what we're doing. And I'm not questioning your projects. My question is legally whether we can do that, or they need to do an additional note in the bill, or whatever it is you need to do, because we're not doing what the bill was originally set out to do. And I'm just not sure how procedurally we handle that to be legal.
Harry?
So you can certainly cancel the 2016 project and bring a new project. I think the title, LeClaire Irrigation Rehabilitation 2016, still applies to what we're talking about. But if that makes everybody more comfortable, we can certainly do that. It was my full intention that in that legislation, there's a description, that description would be amended, and that would be the opportunity when presenting the bill to the House and Senate Ags that we would explain that scenario. But I think either way works, so whatever your preference may be.
Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner?
So if we, I mean, I don't want to cause a problem for these guys, because I do think they've got a legitimate problem, but I would be more comfortable if we canceled the first project and rewrote it as the second project, if we can do it by December, so that I don't want to screw these guys up. But that feels to me to be a cleaner fix for a legislative issue that we might have. And as we keep hearing about precedent, I don't really want to set a precedent of just changing projects in midstream, because I think we'll get beat to death for the rest of my time on the commission.
Senator Geis?
Mr. Chairman, that is the way to do it, was revert that money back into the account and then start with a clean bill this year.
Okay, further questions, comments, concerns? Okay, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
That's what I am.
But he's spending.
Mr. Chairman, then under tab I, you have small water project program. And again, in account 2, we talked about account 1 yesterday. You have available in account 2 a balance of $517,269. At the bottom of the first page of the recommendation, you have the history of projects you have funded, and you can see they range from $75,000 up to $337,000. My thoughts to you are that you have adequate funding in account 2 for small water projects, and I would recommend no additional funding at this time. Questions?
Questions for Harry? Okay.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, then under tab J, sponsors contingency fund. And just like account 1, we have the same issue in account 2, in that this spending authorization is set to expire on July 1st, 2017. I am recommending that it be extended to July 1st, 2025, which corresponds again with the small water project program sunset date. You can see that in terms of existing legislation, the appropriation history starting back in 2006, and the last funding increment was in 2015. So you have a total of $1.8 million in appropriations. To date, we have used this fund, formerly the Sponsors Inflation Fund, now the Sponsors Contingency Fund. We've used on the order of a little over $1 million to supplement project funding. So you have a balance of $712,000 and some change. And I am not recommending any additional appropriation, but merely extending that sunset date to 2025. Questions?
Questions for Harry on the Sponsors Contingency Fund? Nope.
Okay. So, Mr. Chairman, this is under amendments, and I mentioned this to you on Wednesday. My walk-on project, not on your schedule, or we don't have a recommendation, all because what's transpired in the last month at the Willwood Dam. Okay, so what we have, let's see, let me get to the right page. The Willwood Dam Rehabilitation Project. The level 3 appropriation was made in 2012 in the amount of $1,620,000. And that was in the form of a 67% grant, 33% loan, totaling $1,620,000. To date, they have obligated and expect to spend about $1.3 million of that total appropriation, and that will complete the work that they are now planning to complete. And there was some dredging, there's some gate replacements on the canal and the top of the structure. There are the 3 lower gates that were designed originally and have been operated to lower the level of the dam, the water level behind the dam, and flush silt down the river. And when we started into this project, 2 of those 3 gates, those lower gates, were inoperable. And the district, working with their engineer, I'll say that there was a significant amount of silt removal that was planned as part of rehabilitating those 3 lower gates. They were actually able to free up the middle gate, the second gate, and it is operable, as well as the 1 gate that they had. So today they have 2 of the 3 gates operable, and they have completed the lower level dam work that they had intended. And at this point, the replacement of those lower gates has been deferred. The district believes that it's not appropriate to replace them now. So we were talking to the district, and they were saying, well, we think we'll probably in the next 4 or 5 or 6 years, we'll be in a position where we'll want to replace those lower gates. My thoughts to them at the time was that then let's let this appropriation expire. The remaining $300,000 would revert, and bring a new request when you're ready to replace those lower gates. And since that time, for those that have read certainly the local newspapers, but in lowering down the dam, or the water behind the dam, they had a significant sloughing of this silt into the stream. It was flushed downstream, and a significant fish kill down below this dam. And that has led to a notice of violation from DEQ. Game and Fish I guess, has talked, and I've talked to some of the fishery biologists, feel that part of that fishery is a total loss below that dam. And so there's a fair amount of, I guess, community concern and statewide concern for that matter. I suspect EPA may even be getting involved in this from a water quality perspective. So the district is going to need to respond to that in some fashion of how are we going to respond to this in the future, because the silt continues to come down every year during irrigation season and accumulate behind the dam. And so with regards to this appropriation, and my walk-on project is that I'm asking that you extend that appropriation. So 2012, it is set to expire July 1st, 2017. My request is that you extend that appropriation date 1 year, and that would be the amendment that you would see ultimately then in the construction bill. And what that does is it allows the Willwood Irrigation District access to the remaining funds that are right now not obligated towards a project, to look at planning and design potentially of a much better solution than what we have, which is open the lower gates and flush the sediment out the bottom of the dam. So that's my request, and I'd be happy to discuss that or have questions.
Questions for Harry?
We don't have any
No questions.
We can sing along.
Well, Mr. Chairman, in order to move this along, can I, since we've finished with this block, is that correct with amendments? Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the director's recommendation on dull knife, the small water projects, and the sponsor's contingency fund. I would like us to consider Leclerc separately and Willwood separately. But I would move we accept the recommendation of the director on those three.
I second that.
Okay, moved by Commissioner Seacon and seconded by Commissioner Bud Fallon that we accept the Dull Knife Reservoir Spillway Rehabilitation, Small Water Projects Rehabilitation, and Sponsors Contingency Fund Rehabilitation for approval. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Mr. Chairman, not wanting to bring up long dead ghosts, but because of the North Fork issue, the commission has can request a cancellation of a project, that we cancel a project. So I move that we cancel that Leclerc project that, I might be saying this incorrectly, but we talked about canceling the Leclerc, or reverting the Leclerc project, and then doing a new project. So I think we probably have to do that, I would think, as a commission, to say we're stopping that project, notifying Select Water why we want to stop that project and do a new project. And I'm saying this inartfully, so I apologize, but I think you know what I'm getting at.
So Mr. Chairman, so it would be canceling the Leclerc 2016 project.
Correct.
Okay. And then replacing that with a new 2017 project,
Correct.
which involved the lining of two sections of the Leclerc Canal.
And I think in that one statute, we have to notify Select Water, which of course they're here, so they know why we're doing that and why we're canceling the first project.
Hey, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I think to do that, we also have to express the public interest in doing that. And I would argue,
It's actually just suspending the funds.
I would argue that we can simply suspend the funds, because I do think it is in the best public interest and the interest of the citizens of the state to take that money and spend it on fixing those canal linings rather than dealing with the sand trap that still seems to be working and functional, at least in this short period of time.
So I apologize for my inartful motion. Thank you, Karen. But I think we had to, I think by statute, we have to do it in that process.
Second.
Okay. Been moved and seconded by Commissioner Seacon and Commissioner Evans respectively that we do that.
Whatever that is.
Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passed.
I'm not going to make another motion.
You're doing okay.
You got it. You got it. That's all.
Okay.
Nobody
We
said
do
it has
need
to
to.
Looked at the bill, so maybe I didn't understand you right, Harry. Are you asking on the Willwood project to take money that was appropriated for one thing and allowing them to do something else? Because I just don't think we can do that.
So, Mr. Chairman, and this is the legislative report, that this is the appropriation that was made in 2012, making sure. It is titled the Willwood Dam Rehabilitation. And what I would say is within that description and the project is rehabilitation of that dam. And so they have completed a number of projects with regards to the dam. The work that potentially may be coming in the future with regards to this notice of violation involves the dam. It is rehabilitation of the dam. And so I feel that it fits exactly under that project. I'm just asking for the extension of time for 1 year so the dollars don't expire. And if they choose to retain a consultant to look at alternate solutions to the silt plan, then they will have funds to do that. Otherwise, they're going to sit with a notice of violation, and they won't have, after July 1st, there will be no access to that funding. So it gives them time to react to this situation, which I don't believe they intended to happen. I don't understand all of the circumstances, but it does involve the 3 gates that were originally part of this rehabilitation project. So I don't think there's any need to redescribe a project or anything. It's all within the project.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I'm not opposed to doing it. I just want to make sure we do it right. I'm not opposed to it at all. So if we can do that and still fit within in our legal requirements, then it really is fine with me. And then I would move that we simply extend the end date on that legislation for 1 additional year under the same funding with no additional funds added or approved.
I second.
Chairman, yeah, I just remember when we toured that dam and looked at it originally, it was one of those issues where nobody knew exactly how it would work and they fixed it. Were they going to dig it out? Were they going to flush it out? Would the gates need to be repaired? Would the gates be operable? And you had 2 gates under, 50 feet of silt. So it was one of those things where the fact that there's some changes in how it's actually gotten done doesn't surprise me at all. So I think we should extend the date.
Okay. Any senator guys?
If you take a look and you go through the Wind River Canyon up there by the tunnels, all that sand that built up in there back when the old Boyson Dam was there, when they blew that dam out, you know where all that sand went.
More questions, discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passed.
Mr. Chairman, then we're ready to move forward with level 2 projects. We have 3 of those. First one is the Cody Canal laterals. This is a request for funding of a level 2 feasibility study to identify and prioritize converting open laterals to pipe and improve safety and conserve water and decrease maintenance issues. And this focus is the delivery system within the city of Cody where raw irrigation water is being delivered to locations within that community. The proposed budget is $180,000. Questions?
We have a representative from the sponsor.
Thank you for your time. My name is Jerry Bales. I'm the manager, Cody Canal Irrigation District. What has driven this is the continued urbanization of Cody. We talked about this a few years ago when we were here. And what is happening in this particular, the one primary lateral that goes through the city of Cody is it's being developed around, and developers are always fighting the ditch system, wanting to tighten down easements, all this stuff so they can sell more acreage. And also the city of Cody has an ordinance that any subdivisions that go in, the ditches within them need to be piped. Thus far, we've kind of balked against this because we don't have a kind of a master plan or a good plan to carry all the way through this, so we don't end up with a hodgepodge of what every developer wants to do. And that's what we're trying to achieve with this. Is the primary focus is with the town laterals, but at the same time, I would like to look into starting the piping project of many of our other laterals and try to get a feasibility and an idea where we're at budget-wise to move forward with this to conserve the water and all of these maintenance issues that come up from that.
Questions?
I got something to say.
Commissioner Glick.
I went out there and looked, and I know that a lot of these laterals are kind of dangerous in the communities, and they need to be taken care of and piped. But guess I don't talk loud enough.
No.
Yeah, I went out there and looked. some of the piping that, or some of the open laterals really do need to be piped. There's some areas that are kind of maybe not safe because there's schools that are close by, and I know there's some that are fenced off, but there's still access to the open laterals. I agree with this level 2. I was just wanting to express my agreement.
Questions, comments, concerns?
Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner Reeser?
I think it's a good study, but one of the purposes of the study is it's not the irrigation district's fault that the people are subdividing. So hopefully the study will come up with a proposal where when somebody is replatting an area, that you have a system of pipe that you want, and the expense is borne 100% by the developer.
Yeah.
So I don't think this commission or your district should be paying to subsidize bad development.
I totally agree with you on that, and that is our intent, is so that I have something to take to the developer and say, I want this type of pipe on this type of slopes and grades between point A and point B, so that it flows efficiently. I mean, I don't want to end up with something going downhill and big pipe, then little pipe, then back to big pipe. I mean, that would be a wreck in the future, and that's what I'm trying to prevent.
Here, man. When I went and looked at it, I know that there's irrigation that goes straight through the town, and there is big agricultural fields and areas on the other side of Cody that do need to have sufficient water provided.
More questions, comments, concerns? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, the next project then is the Kirby Ditch Rehabilitation. Level 2 study, proposed budget $100,000. The study is going to look at 2 specific problems that they have. One is where the ditch is flowing through an area that is prone to sliding, so trying to stabilize that. And then secondly, there's a diversion on the upper end of the ditch system where the ditch is checked, and that creates some water quality, algae issues, increased seepage, and so they want to look at options to try to resolve that check structure. We do have a representative from Kirby here today. Come on up, D.
Good to see you. I'm D. Hillberry with the Kirby Ditch Irrigation District. This request, as Harry mentioned, involves 2 separate parts on the ditch. The one is the lower 2 miles of the ditch, which serves 5 irrigators, and about 20%, 580 acres, or 20% of the total acreage under the ditch. And it's had a problem for many, many years. It has about 600 yards in an active slide area, and it's shut down several times, unfortunately, in the irrigation season. And we're worried we're going to lose the whole ditch there. And we need to find a solution to serve those folks down there. The other part of that end of the ditch, before the slide, it's very slow, very slow flow, and in a low spot, we get a lot of the term I'm looking for, a lot of seepage. And so we have to put an excessive amount of water, try to get an excessive amount to that end of the ditch to serve those acres down there. The other project, again, as Harry mentioned, is the upper part of the ditch. We have one irrigator, has about 80 acres under the ditch, that has to check the ditch up so high that it backs all the way up to our state engineer's measuring device, pools the water, creates a lot of moss and algae problems. And we'd like to take a look at that and find a solution to possibly go up the ditch, put another head gate, and then get out to irrigate his lands. So that's basically the 2 small projects to complete our ditch.
Questions for the sponsor? Looks like you got off easy.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Thanks, Harry. You too. We'll talk to you.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, the next level 2 project is the Wheatland Irrigation District Tunnel Dam Rehabilitation. Proposed budget $150,000. This is a fairly substantial dam on the Laramie River that then is used to back water up, and then water is diverted through a tunnel to Bluegrass Creek. The dam itself is 100 years old, more or less. There's visible deterioration happening on the structure in terms of spalling and rebar that's visible. And it's appropriate that we look at a feasibility analysis in terms of how we rehabilitate this dam for the district. And we do have representatives from the district here.
Thank you.
Okay, John?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to just give you a
Your name,
background.
rank, file, and serial number
Oh,
first.
I'm sorry. I had that on top of my page too. My name is Donald Britton. I'm manager of the Wheatland Irrigation District. And I've been manager since 1990. What I'd like to just talk about right now is that we're 134 years old on our district. The tunnel was finished in 1886, started in 1883, finished in 1886. We have 7 dams, or 12 dams. We can store about 180,000 acre feet of water, and a lot of that water is above this diversion. We've had studies and we have the master plan. The tunnel wasn't really studied because before that study, we had the new gates put into the tunnel. What's failing right now is the dam to divert it through those gates. So we think that it's the most important thing that we have. If we don't have that dam, we don't have an irrigation district. So we're just asking for a study by engineers to be able to see what we need to do. Was probably built in the wrong place in the first place, but we don't know that, and it's starting to fail. So if we're going to do something, we want to do it right. Thank you.
Questions for the sponsor?
Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner Bud Fallon.
So you did have one master plan, but it didn't study your whole irrigation system? Or did I not understand you right?
Sorry, but the study was on the whole system, and that's from Arlington, Wyoming down to Wheatland. And at the time, the tunnel dam, we had the new gates going through the tunnel, but the tunnel dam was still intact. It's starting to deteriorate to the point of where the head gate needs to be replaced. The concrete's so old that it's crumbling on top. So the master plan was really extensive. It was a huge study. It identified repairs that we'll need in the next 30 years at $31 million. And we're a private irrigation district, public-private, you know. We don't have any water from the federal government.
Mr. Chairman, was this project identified in that master plan somewhere?
Mr. Chairman, no, it wasn't identified because it's identified as part of our irrigation district, but it wasn't identified as needing repairs right away.
Mr. Chairman, and when was that master plan?
Mr. Chairman, 2009.
I'm, just so you know, I'm not complaining about this project, but the commission has really been looking and concerned about the amount of money we're spending doing these master plans. And it seems like if the master plans aren't aren't helping to identify things and organize repairs out into the future, then I think we need to look at the whole master planning thing. But this doesn't have anything to do with your project, but that's why I was asking the question.
Harry.
Mr. Chairman, and I haven't looked at the 2000 master plan. I will do that when I get back in the office. But master plans look at the whole system, look at issues, and whether this was identified as a future maintenance need or not, I don't know. But the proposal before you level 2 is a much more in-depth, it's a feasibility study of now sponsors brought these concerns forward, and whether it was identified in the master plan or not, these are imminent issues. And so now we're looking at the feasibility of how do we fix this problem. So there is a distinction between master plan, may or may not have been captured there, but now we're looking at how do you fix this structure, and it's a concrete structure, as I recall. Yeah. So,
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Evans.
Yeah, I understand the difference between the two studies, but I agree with Karen and maybe this is in the master plan. Don probably hasn't looked at it for in depth for a while, but the reasons for the request is that the face and toe of the dam are dilapidated and there's extensive scouring, spalling, and exposed rebar. Maybe that can come to light in 7 years, but maybe you could just report back to us. We hope a master plan would catch this sort of thing. And if not, is there a good reason for it? And I think it's worth reporting back to.
Mr. Chairman, they did identify everything in the master plan, but they didn't try to even say which ones would fail first. They listed every structure that we have, every dam, and all the ditches and everything. So that's why it was an in-depth study, because they came up with the figure to replace everything we had in the district in that 30 years.
Representative McKim.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Following up on Commissioner Evans' comments there, it says in here that the structure has previously been resurfaced. How long ago was that resurfaced?
Mr. Chairman, it was long before my time, because it was starting to deteriorate some when I took over in 1990, and I've worked for the district since 1983.
Follow up then, Mr. Chairman, has not just recently been resurfaced, right? Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any more questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
It appears to be all in level 2 projects. Do we want to handle those in a block now, or move on and finish level 1 and do the rest of them all together?
Mr. Chairman, I move we accept the director's recommendations on the level 2 projects.
Mr. Chairman, I second that.
Okay, it's been moved by Commissioner Werbelow, seconded by Commissioner Canfield, that we accept the level 2 director's recommendations on the level 2 projects. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passed. Level 1 projects.
Mr. Chairman, 2 projects for your consideration. The first is under tab MC, Hanover Irrigation District Master Plan Phase 2. So 2016, last legislative session, you approved a $175,000 study for the Hanover Irrigation District Master Plan. This particular district, the first 13 miles of the canal convey water also for the Hanover Irrigation District. And so, so 2016, you approved the master plan for Hanover Irrigation District. But the first 13 miles also convey water for the Highland Hanover Irrigation District. So in 13 miles, then water is diverted into the Highland Hanover Irrigation District. The two districts were at least discussing the need for a master plan. And as I understand it, at least the Highland folks did not have their part of the application put in. So what you considered last year was for Hanover. And this request now we have is from Highland Hanover, and they would also like to be considered for a master plan. I mentioned the previous district because the commonality of the first 13 miles of their canal. And so this would be looking at jointly with Hanover, but then into the Highland Hanover, and the proposed budget is $120,000. It would be my thoughts that we want the same engineering consulting firm to do both, since these districts do share some facilities.
Have a representative from the sponsor today?
Hello, I'm Dan Madden. I'm the president of the Highland Hanover Canal. And we have some areas on our canal that we discussed with the Hanover a couple years ago to get in with this project. And some circumstances we didn't get involved right away. And now we'd like to look at getting a study on our canal system. We have some areas of safety concerns. We pump a lot of our water, all of our water, and we have some flumes that are kind of a danger spot, and so we'd like to look at that. And also we have some open systems. In our area, we've went from flood irrigation to center pivot irrigation, and that's made a lot of improvements. But now our canal system, where we used to have to have flood irrigation out, we have pipelines going to pivots, and our canals are running as an open system. So we're getting a lot of waste because the system's going on and off, and so we're running water out the end. And so we implemented a few years ago on our canal system that everything that is newly installed will be a closed system. And so these two different areas that we are open is actually the canal system is an open system, not the center pivot irrigation. So what we're wanting to do is to pipeline these areas of canals to make them a closed system. Right now they're dirt ditches and cement ditches. The cement ditches are failing, and I guess one of the main reasons we're at $25 an acre right now as assessment, and we will have to go up $1 this year to handle our expenses on the canal system. And so we're not able to replace these items under our own money, to say, because we'd have to raise our rates too high to get the projects completed. So,
questions for the sponsor?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
So what is a normal level 1 study? I mean, if we were going to do this, a master plan like this, brand new, what would that normally cost? Because I mean, this kind of stuff is nuts. We could keep talking about regionalization of water systems and what kind of a cost savings that would be. It just seems insane that we funded a master plan last year at $175,000, and now we're just going to add 13 miles of ditch to it for another 120. I mean, this is
13 miles is what we share with Hanover system. separate canal. We're wanting to look at in the study.
So,
There you go,
Mr.
Ed.
Chairman, and I apologize for the confusion. The first, I mentioned Hanover, in fact, it's mentioned in the write-up because that's an ongoing study. The 13 miles of shared canal is part of the existing study that's ongoing. That's already being looked at. So Highland Hanover has come forward and wants to look at the facilities in their system outside of these shared systems. So additional, you said 30-some miles of canal. So it's a separate irrigation district, but they have these shared facilities. So in my mind, it would have been nice had both districts come at one time and one study. It would have been much larger than the 175,000 that was appropriated last year. But here we are. I mean, the request from Highland Hanover did not come in, but this is not looking at the same facility. This is looking at a separate irrigation district, and those 13 miles are already covered with the existing study that's ongoing.
Your guys, did you have?
Well, there's about 4 canal systems in that this is all on the east side of the Bighorn River going north. The main intake up for the upper and lower Hanover, they comes in right there at Winchester or Chatham, whatever you want to call it there, is where it is, and it travels down. I don't know, I think they really need all them systems to look at the whole ball of wax if you're going to do it right. And that includes the one clear up on the top that I can't remember what it's called now.
Bluff and Upper Bluff.
But they all need to be looked at if you're going to do a master plan on the whole outfit, and not piecemeal it.
Okay, I guess, Mr. Chairman, I guess there's nothing we can do about it now, but it's one of my big frustrations with the program is it really does feel like we piecemeal stuff together. And then, the little guys in Afton come along and we get mad at them because they don't want to do regional studies. But that's what we're doing here is we're going to piecemeal together all these little pieces. And I absolutely think there's got to be a cost savings to us if we look at all these systems all together because they all function together. And there's got to be a way we can deal with this.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Canfield.
I understand, Senator Geis, that there are more small districts besides this one that function off the main Highland ditch that may come in for.
Well, I don't know, Mr. Chairman, I don't know whether they'll come in for a master plan, but if you're going to do a master plan, they should do a master plan on everything on the east side of the Bighorn River, clear down to Manderson. That's the way it should be handled if you want to get the big picture.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, multiple canals, and through time they have been their own individual canal systems. Then they've come together and been one large canal operation and then split out. And their current operation is there's 5 of them because there's the lower there's the lower Hanover, which does not share any infrastructure other than some of the drains coming from the upper Hanover, which is named Upper Hanover, but it's the Hanover Canal Company. So as we're reviewing the master plan for Hanover, we go by these other canal companies, Bluff, Upper Bluff, Highland Hanover, and they are treated as a delivery point. So we're delivering whether it be 170 CFS to that point. So as we're reviewing the master plan for Hanover, we're looking at the finances and how that's split out to these other water districts, but we're treating them as a delivery point because if we look at all these in one study, it would be a very substantial study, and I don't believe you would have funded it last year just due to the scope. Hanover itself has 36 miles and about 299 assets.
Highland Hanover has approximately 30 miles of canal and about 220 assets. And Bluff and Upper Bluff, I don't know how many miles and assets they have yet because I haven't delved into that. So we are considering these other canal companies because they have to help pay for any improvements on sections of the Hanover that we make modifications to. So in the funding, we are looking at that, and we are looking at making improvements that affect them, but their operations are separate. The Highland Hanover, for example, and the Upper Bluff have large amounts of pumping that it's done. And that's one of the reasons Highland's coming forward is the Reclamation or Bureau of Reclamation designed their system back in the 40s. Those pumps are from the 40s, and they're looking at them while doing assessments for the Hanover. They're near the end of their life, and the pumping costs, and actually I've seen the amount of return flows coming from Highland Hanover back into the Hanover system, and it's not efficient. There's no controls on that system to modify the output of those pumps to ramp those pumps up and down. So we are considering these other canals, but there's such a substantial amount of infrastructure out there that we can't just say, or we could say, but it's going to cost a substantial amount more to lump them all together.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Seekin.
but I think our point is that each of these others, if they, 3, 4, 5 more of these little independent canals come in, that's another $300,000, $400,000, $500,000. And I can't believe a study would have cost $700,000 for this, which is what this might break out to be. Your next group is going to come in because they're going to have to decide what to charge. So they're going to want a master plan to decide what they're willing to pay. So here's another $100,000.
Mr. Chairman, brief comment on that. Bluff and Upper Bluff would be, I guess, another company that could come in and ask for a study. The Lower Hanover doesn't share any infrastructure, so I don't see them being on this. So we could have Bluff and Upper Bluff. I've not.
Bighorn or Hanover, either one of those, because of where their irrigation is. The Lower Hanover has no Bureau of Reclamation requirements. So I don't personally see them ever getting involved with the rest of the canal systems. And they like Senator Guy said, they run clear to Manderson. So just in my opinion, to do a study on those canal systems would be substantially higher than they'd probably be in that 700,000 by themselves because of their length of canal system. But I have not heard of any of them ever discussing doing anything with Water Commission. But
Mr. Chairman,
Senator Guys.
the Lower Hanover, their intake is only about 8 miles south of Worland. That comes in. The Bighorn is on up a little farther, and that Bighorn Canal's on the west side of the river, and that runs clear to Grable, Wyoming. And then you got the Upper Bluff, which is probably it might be a 15-mile canal, but not much more than that. And that's on the west side of the river.
18.
And that's
yeah.
all your different canal systems in that whole area there.
Yeah.
Any more questions? Comments, concerns? Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Chairman. Yep. Next project is the LaPrelle Irrigation District Master Plan. This is a district in Converse County, 31,000 plus acres, and they are seeking a master plan for their system. I believe we do have a representative here.
Yeah, it's all part of that whole system.
Mr. Chairman, I'm Colt Rodeman, President of Laparero Irrigation District, and I appreciate you guys' consideration of our project.
I'd like to answer any questions at this time.
Questions for the sponsor? Okay.
Well, he didn't lose any more hair.
Yeah. Thank you. And that's it for level 1 projects. So,
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Werbelo.
I move we accept the director's recommendations on the level 1 project.
Second, Mr. Chairman.
It's been moved by Commissioner Werbelo, seconded by Commissioner Wagner, that we approve the director's recommendation on level 1 projects in account 2. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passed. And that ends count 2. Director's comments.
Mr. Chairman, the only comment I have for the commission is that financial disclosures are due for each of you by December 31st at the Secretary of State's office. And I will be sending out the form that was developed for you to report or provide that financial disclosure. My thoughts to you is that if you want to return those to my office, to me, then we will make sure they're delivered to the Secretary of State, and then we'll keep a copy in your personnel file. But this is, I guess, a legal question, Abby. We have two commissioners that their terms end March 1st of 2017, and as I read the statute, you are required to file a financial disclosure as of December 31st of this year. Don't want you to blow us off.
Good. I might just violate that law.
We're waiting on a bill.
Okay, any more? Is that it, Harry, for you?
Mr.
Okay, future meeting schedule?
They're under tab H in the little notebook. Next meeting for the commission, December 14 and 15. And that will be workshop Wednesday afternoon, meeting Thursday morning, where you will work the omnibus construction and planning bills. And then December 16th, then select water committee meeting. And then subsequent to that, March 2nd and 3rd, then will be the first meeting of the commission in 2017.
Okay. A little bit early, but I believe Representative Blake offered to sing God Bless America at 11 o'clock.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. Thank you.
Hey! Thank you, Representative Blake.
That's pretty darn good.
Give it back to those folks across the room. I know, I said it was a little bit early, but no, we haven't had a motion.
Mr. Chairman.
Excuse me, we are still in session.
Hit it.
We are